You ever hear a sales pitch that sounds just a little too good to be true? You know, from the world's best coffee to promises that you'll get rich quick, we are surrounded by these huge claims. But when does that kind of sales talk cross the line from just, enthusiastic marketing into an actual illegal lie? Well, today we're going to break down that surprising legal difference between what's called puffery and flat-out misrepresentation. So let's kick things off with a pretty high-stakes scenario. Imagine someone is selling their business and they tell a potential buyer, yep, our annual sales are $1 million. The only problem? They know for a fact the real number is only half that. So is this just being an aggressive negotiator or is it a crime? Well, the answer really lies in this legal idea called actionable misrepresentation. This is basically a lie that's serious enough for the law to actually step in. Now, for a lie to be actionable, two things are absolutely key. One, it has to be a false statement of fact, not just an opinion. And two, it has to be a major reason you decided to go through with the deal. Right, so not every exaggeration is an illegal lie. Let's start with the most common kind of harmless sales talk, which the law actually calls puffery. This is the kind of wild, over-the-top claim that the law just assumes no reasonable person would ever take literally. Check this out. This is from a real case. An ad for a drink promised it would make your eyes shine and that you'd become, quote, enormously rich and powerful. Sounds pretty good, right? But if you drink it and you're still not rich, can you sue? So this is classic puffery. The claims are just so outrageous that there's no way they could be considered facts. The law basically says, come on, no reasonable person would buy this drink and actually expect to become a millionaire. It's just harmless, over-the-top marketing. Okay, so things get a little trickier when we move away from those wild exaggerations and into simple opinions. I mean, where is the line between someone just sharing their personal belief and stating a fact that they can be held to? Imagine this. You're in a shop, and a customer asks the owner if a shirt is made of silk. The owner says, I don't know for sure. I think they are silk. Turns out they're not. So was that customer legally misled? And that little phrase, I think, that's the whole key. By using it, the shop owner isn't stating a fact, she's giving her opinion. And since it was framed as a belief, not a certainty, the law protects it. That specific wording makes all the difference in the world. Let's circle back to our business sale example just to see this difference super clearly. Stating, annual sales are $1 million is a statement of fact. It's either true or it isn't, right? But saying annual sales are expected to be $1 million, well, that's an opinion, it's a projection. One is a verifiable fact, the other is a guess about the future. And that's the line. Okay, so we've looked at harmless puffery and these non-binding opinions. Now let's get into what happens when someone makes a false statement of fact that has real, serious consequences. This is the actionable lie. So let's look at a really clear-cut case. Erin sells some land to Kath, and she tells her it can be used for a factory. Now, this isn't an opinion or puffery. It's a very specific claim about what the land is zoned for. And, well, it's completely false. And the verdict? This is a textbook case of actionable misrepresentation. It's a false statement about a critical fact, the whole reason Kath bought the land in the first place. This is exactly the kind of lie that lets a court step in, void a contract, and even award damages. So what's the legal test for one of these actionable lies? Well, it really comes down to 4 key elements. First, you need a false statement. Second, it's got to be a statement of fact. Third, it has to be addressed to the person who's being misled. And fourth, and this one is crucial, it has to be the thing that induces them or convinces them to sign the contract. If you can tick all 4 of those boxes, that lie is actionable. But this is where it gets really fascinating. Sometimes a person can tell a clear, factual lie, and it still isn't an actionable misrepresentation. Yeah, there are these specific situations where the lie it fails to have any legal weight. Okay, in our first scenario, Neil lies to Oscar that his mining company struck gold, hoping to drive up the share price. It's a clear lie about a fact. But here's the twist. Oscar knows Neil is lying. He buys the shares anyway, but not because he believes the lie. Or what about this one? Paul tells Quincy a product has a 2-year guarantee, which is false. But before Quincy actually places the order, Paul realizes his mistake, calls him back, and corrects the information to the true 1-year guarantee. Quincy just says, okay, and buys it anyway. So why did these lies fail in court? Well, in the gold mine case, the lie didn't induce the contract because Oscar wasn't actually fooled. The core principle here is that the lie has to be the reason you make the deal. And in the guarantee case, the lie was corrected before the contract was even signed, so the statement that existed at the time of the deal was actually the truth. In both of these situations, a key element of misrepresentation was missing. Okay, we have gone through puffery, opinions, lies, and even lies that fail. So let's pull it all together for one final review of all our scenarios. All right, let's just quickly review the final verdicts. The Wonder Drink ad, that was puffery. The business sale and the land for a factory claims, those were actionable lies. The comment about the silk shirt was just an opinion. And finally, the gold mine and the product guarantee were lies that failed to be actionable simply because they didn't actually convince anyone to make the deal. So, if you remember anything from this explainer, let it be these 4 points. Number 1, puffery is just sales talk. 2, stating an opinion protects you. 3, a lie has to be a statement of fact to matter legally. And most importantly, 4, that lie has to be the reason you entered into the deal in the first place. So there you have it, the fine and pretty fascinating line between a sales pitch and a legally punishable offense. Now that you know the rules, I've got a question for you. As you go about your day today, what harmless puffs, from the world's best coffee to some life-changing software, what are you going to start to notice?